Hi, I'm Tim with Myers Sewing. Today we're going to learn a little bit about your new Vibrant overlock machine. We're going to start with knowing your machine, and that will start with the instruction manual that came with your machine. And on page, let's see what we got here. On page 1 of the machine, it has the table of contents, and we're going to start with knowing your machine and identifying some of the accessories that came with your machine. Okay, we're going to talk about the accessories that came with the machine. The first one is the scrap catcher. This catches all the scraps that get cut off from the machine. The second one is a seam guide. This seam guide allows you to mark the edge of your fabric to whatever you want to do. Next, we have spool caps. This is one of them that works very well with smaller spools of thread, such as this spool right here. You have an extra upper knife that when your fabric doesn't cut as well as it used to, we'll replace it with that knife. A screwdriver. That will allow you to take any of the presser feet off, for example, or the needle plate. You have a open end and box end wrench, and that will remove the nut for the upper knife. An oiler. This bottle of oil will oil the machine, and we'll talk about that later. You also have, you get 4 thread nets, and they go on to the larger spools of thread if it has a problem of falling down. And the discs that allow it supports the spool of thread, for example, like this, and that way it doesn't fall off. And lastly, you have a cleaning brush. The cleaning brush, and you would utilize this to clean the machine. And that does it for the accessories. All right, setting up the machine. Let's talk about, this is the threaded teta, and it will raise up and down. When you got it out of your box, it was in the down position, so just raise it until it's fully extended. We're also going to talk about the parts of the machine. Starting with the lower looper tension dial, that is here. This is the upper looper tension dial, right needle tension dial, and the left needle tension dial. We're also going to talk about thread guides. This is from the spool of thread coming here to your next thread guide going down. And to open this cover, you simply put your finger in and pull down, like so. And to open this cover, you pull down on this lever and it opens up, like so. Other parts of the machine, we do see the lower looper, and this is the actual lower looper right here. Alrighty. We have the upper looper. This is your upper looper, and the right needle is right here. There's your right needle, and the left needle is the one just to the left of the right needle. You have your presser foot, your needle plate, and those are pretty much the essential parts of the machine. We're going to also show you, let's go ahead and close this back up, and we're going to show you that the cord plugs into the machine right here, and you have a power on-off switch located right here. So your plug only goes in one way. It will not go in upside down. It only goes in one way. And then turn the power on, and that gives you power to the machine. Your stitch link dial is located over here, and your differential feed, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. It's located right here. All right, once we have identified the parts of the machine, those are the primary, then we'll go on to prepare for threading on the next section. Now let's thread the machine. Today I brought 4 different colors of spools of thread that match the colors of the tensions. And I have found that this works really well in trying to identify what loopers look like, what the needles look like, tension-wise. So we're going to start, and on page 18 of your instruction book, it talks about threading the blue path first, which happens to be your lower looper. So our first thread guide is located right here. If you go from left to the right, it falls in place. Our second thread guide is here, and we're going to go from right to left. Before we put it into the tension, it's important that you raise the presser foot up, which is located right here on the side and in the back. And then we're going to lay our thread in the tension, right like so. Our next thread guide is located right here. We're going to put the thread from right to left into the thread guide. Our next thread guide will be the blue thread guide, which is located right here. So we're going to go from the bottom up. That pops in. Our next thread guide is right here, and that's from right to left. So we're going to push it right to left, get my fingers out of the way here. And if I turn the hand wheel toward me, which is on the right-hand side of the machine, you'll see that the lower looper comes to the lowest left position. You can now go from bottom up and attach that thread into that thread guide, okay? If you turn the hand wheel again towards you again, you'll notice that the lower looper is going to go from the lowest position. Keep turning until we get to this position right here, and we're going to thread the eye of the lower looper right there, all right? And I take my tweezers, go in the hole of the lower looper. Oop, make it that a little bit better. What I do, I've done this for years. I double the thread, and typically what it does, it makes it a little stiffer, and it helps thread the eye of the looper a lot better. And I'm having a little difficulty here, but that's because I'm a little older than I used to be. So get that thread to the back, and then you come back, grab the thread, and bring it to the back of the machine, and all the way through. And sometimes this happens too. I'm kind of glad it did. It got caught on the bottom arm here, so you want to take that off, and also came out of the looper. So we put that back in. There we go. Now we're good to go. Okay. Just turn the hand wheel and put that thread to the back of the machine. Let me cut this off a little bit. Feed it on through. All right, now we've completed the threading on the machine. Now we're going to thread the green path, which is the upper looper. So take your thread, and it goes in the thread guide right here at the top. Again, right to left, straight down, and you got a thread guide located right here that I put it in. Your next one, does have a green dot on it, so bottom up, pops in place. And your next one is located right here, so if you just go under and then around, it fits in place. There we go, just like that. Thread guide located right here, and you can twist it around that if you want. Try and keep my fingers out, but what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take and double that thread up again and bring it from the bottom up, which would be right like this, and grab the thread. Okay. Turning our hand wheel again until our our upper looper is in the proper position, which is located right here. Okay. And we're going to thread the eye of the upper looper. And take our tweezers, get that started. Okay. Grab it with the tweezers and bring it also underneath the presser foot, just like so. So now we've accomplished the threading of the lower looper and the upper looper. Now we're going to work on the right and left needle. We're going to do the orange path. So the orange thread is going to go for this thread guide right here. And how this works, you thread the left side first and then come over, and let me show you how that works. So you go in and then make a loop in the thread and come back over. And that's how that threads, much like so. Bring it in the tension. I like to floss it That way we know that the thread is in the tension. You're going to go underneath and over the top, turning our hand wheel until our needles are at the top position. And then you're going to place the thread behind the thread guide. It's advisable to lower the pressure foot at this time, and that will give you more room to thread the right needle. Just trim the thread and take your thread and thread the eye of the right needle, which is right there, and come back and grab it and place it back underneath the presser foot. And you notice I raised my presser foot back up again so that I could release the thread. That's something to know, that when the presser foot is up, it does release the thread, such as here. When the presser foot is down, it engages the tension of the thread so that it's a little tighter to pull. So when you want to pull the threads out, you want to raise the presser foot, which is on the side. And the last thread guide is the red one. And again, we're going to go in and make a loop, and back in again. Hold the thread, place it between the tension disc, pull up, you hear a click, back down under, going the same spot as the orange thread, and then behind on the left side. And now we're going to thread the left needle. We're going to trim the thread, come in, and thread the eye of the left needle. Okay, let's see, let's go grab it here, perhaps. And we're going to pull it through until it is under the presser foot as well. Up behind, raise the foot, and pull that thread underneath the presser foot. Okay? The next thing we're going to do is actually serge on the machine so that we can decide which type of stitch we want, 4-thread or 3-thread, and I'll explain that on the next section. Okay, now we've threaded our machine. I would suggest that you test the machine on a scrap piece of fabric before you begin your garment. And on page 26 of the instruction manual, it talks about testing stitch overlock stitches. So I've threaded up, obviously, for a 4th thread. I'm going to step on the foot control on the machine. And this is kind of cool. Point this out. There's a lever right here which opens a knife, and you put your thread under the knife, and as you let go of the lever, it cuts the thread for you. I think that's pretty cool. So let's identify the stitches here. Our left needle, which is our red stitch, it's kind of buried in the pink fabric here, but it is located right here, and on the back side, it would be your seam thread. So when I pull this apart, that's actually what you're going to find that holds your garment together. The left needle. The right needle is the orange, and that's the orange going down through the upper and lower looper stitches. It's located right here. It's a double stitch for strength. Then we talk about the upper looper. And the upper looper are the loops that go on top of the fabric or the upper side of the fabric. And you can see the green threads right here. And if I turn this over, you'll now see the lower looper, which is the blue. And you can see the blue threads coming back here. Note that the upper and lower loopers, the blue and the green, will actually meet on the cut edge of the fabric, which is right here on the side. So this is a very well balanced overlock stitch, and that's what you'll want to see prior to stitching your garment. Now the next thing we're going to show is a 3-thread stitch on our neck section, and we're going to be removing the left needle for that purpose. Okay, we're going to change the machine from a 4-thread stitch to a 3-thread stitch. And on page 28 of your instruction booklet, It does have the settings for 4-thread, 3-thread, tension settings and such, length, width, and such. So we're going to actually remove the left needle, and what we do is we open the front cover, and you'll note that there is your screwdriver that is designed to remove the left needle screw. So simply by loosening the left needle, and the reason I know that is the top screw has an L beside it and the bottom screw has an R beside it, so thus standing for left and right needle. And I would highly recommend, I've done this too many times, but I would leave the thread in the eye of the needle, because if I did not have that in and I loosen the screw, sometimes the needle has fallen out of the needle clamp, and just what happened to me here is still attached because the thread is attached to the needle, and that way you can take the needle out and not drop the needle inside the machine, which is kind of cool. When we do a 3-thread stitch, I recommend too that we actually remove the thread completely out of the mechanism. So I'm going to go ahead and trim the thread, raise the presser foot, and take my red thread out of the machine. Now I have only the right needle and the orange thread. And what that's going to do, it's going to make a less wide stitch. So this stitch would be great for lighter weight fabrics. Okay, let's do a 3-thread stitch. Close our door. And I've selected a white piece of fabric so you can see the stitch a little better. Lower the presser foot, step on the foot control, and we will do a 3-thread stitch. And use your cutter, down, cut the thread. And now you can see you have the orange thread, which is our 1 needle. Previously in a 4-thread stitch, we had 2 needles. We have the left needle and the loopers, green and blue, and there's your 3-thread stitch. And after that, we're going to talk about setting tensions for different types of fabrics. That'll be on the next section. Okay, now we're going to talk about the tensions on the machine. They all have numbers on the tensions, but number 4 is the normal settings for the loopers and also the needles. Just to indicate, if you go to a smaller number, such as 0 or 1, that is a lesser or looser tension, as compared to going to a larger number, such as 8 or 9, and that's a tighter tension. The reason for adjusting tensions might be different types of thread or different results that you'd like to achieve, which I just rethreaded it and put in the extra needle, and we're setting it for a 4-thread stitch. I'm going to show you how to adjust the tensions for a gathering stitch, gathering the fabric. So the first thing I would suggest is we take the tensions of the needles and turn them up to about 7 on both. Our loopers we leave the same, and on our stitch length we're going to turn that to the longest stitch length. In this case it's number 4, and then this is our differential feed lever. If you can see that, we'll put that in, and it has a setting of 0.07 up to 2, and we're going to take it up to the highest setting, which is number 2. And what that will do, it will gather the fabric, especially on a single ply fabric. We're going to put it through the machine and you'll see how this gathers up. Okay. And I got probably too much gather, but you can see how that really gathers the fabric up. Our next settings will be talking about maintenance, taking care of our machine. Part of the end of this video, I'd like to talk about maintenance, cleaning and oiling your machine. Page 62 of your instruction book talks about this. First thing I would recommend you do is unthread the machine so you don't get anything tangled up. And more importantly, on the side of the machine, turn the power off. Therefore, there won't be any hazards that might happen. We're going to open our front cover, open our side cover, and whoop, I got a little thread in there. All right, So the first thing is cleaning. This machine's pretty darn clean, but you would go in and clean any lint that might be attached. Typically you see a fair amount of lint in the cutting knife area, which is right here, so clean that out. And then oiling the machine, you take your little oiler that came with the machine, take the cap off, and turn the hand wheel so that the needle bar is in the down position. And you're going to drop a drop of oil on the needle bar, like so, okay? Then the other section of the machine to oil would be your upper looper shaft, which is located right here. I put a drop of oil here, and I turn the hand wheel and put a drop of oil below. That way, this bushing, the shaft is going to get lubricated. Other than that, that's all that's required. On occasion, you may want to take the needle plate off. Occasionally, you're going to get lint buildup underneath the presser foot and the feed dogs. And you can remove these two screws and remove the needle plate to get the lint out, and then just put the needle plate back on. Thanks for watching, and as always, if you have any questions, please give us a call at the store or simply send us an email and we'll get right back to you. Thanks again.